Rotary members have done everything, spending their vacations immunizing children in faraway places, to lobbying heads of state, to negotiating ceasefires and civil wars long enough to get millions of children vaccinated. They've shown us how to mobilize people, raise more money than anybody thought volunteers could, and create public-private partnerships that can take on large-scale global projects. Along the way, they have taught us that when we are inspired to work together in the interest of an engaging cause, there is no problem bigger than we are. And that's a quote from Bill Gates Sr. That's the father of the Bill Gates you've heard of.
Seal cuts.
A very famous Rotarian, I might add, who inspired his
Real
son
Bill Gates
towards Rotary.
Thank you. Yeah, we can't forget how the Gates connection came up, and it was because Bill Gates Jr. was basically raised by a dedicated Rotarian father. Yay! Get your kids involved. Right. So, Joe, what do you have for us today?
Well, Barbara, this morning at about 5:30, as a fox was barking outside our window for about 15 minutes, I thought a little Home on the Range this morning.
Okay.
So give me a home where the buffalo and the deer and the antelope play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and the skies are not cloudy all day. Home under the range, where the deer and the antelope play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and the skies are not cloudy all day.
Woohoo! Thank you, everybody. And I think you are right. It doesn't look like the sky is going to be cloudy all day. So we have two Cyber Rotarians with us. Good morning, Past District Governor Bruce Campbell and Past District Governor Elaine Campbell from the Rotary Club of Sparks. Thank you for joining us this morning. Thank you, Henry, for showing your book. That's an interesting book. Do we have any cyber?
Excellent book.
Pardon, Henry?
What?
What did you say?
It's an excellent book. I recommend it. It's a history of Rotary. Yeah. Many fascinating things in there. Yeah. Like Rotary was big on 3H before we had 4H. I mean, all sorts of interesting background things. Very good historical stuff about the creation of Rotary and its origins and its history. I enjoyed it a lot and recommend it.
Now, did you buy it from Rotary or is it on Amazon?
I bought it at a Rotary convention, and it was for sale at an international convention at one of the many tables and booths you have at those conventions. So next time you go to a Rotary convention, I'm sure it'll be for sale there. That's where I bought it. I don't know where else you can get it.
Okay, thank you.
Once again, Barbara, the title, please.
Barbara, I speaking of buying Rotary, I bought one at the National and World Convention for Joe, the 1918 Rotary Official Songbook. And I'm still waiting for Joe to pick out one of those songs from early 1900s for us.
Well, Joe, now you have a job.
I have it. Some of those songs are far from politically correct these days. Yeah. Believe me.
Yeah. There's got to be one. There's got to be one.
Well, we'll have to. Maybe we'll take that book out for your debunking.
Do that, Joe.
Okay, well then wave to your friends. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody.
Wow.
Look at that. I see David's picture. He's wearing a black bow tie. Woohoo! Okay, now I gotta mute y'all. Da, 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 da. Mute all. There we go. Okay, after 8 clicks. So we have some birthdays. Is Gus with us this morning? Gus? Gus? I guess not. How about Scott? Scott here yet? How about Kathy Rogers? Oh, we're striking out. 3 for 3, huh? Well, these are our birthdays coming up in this next week. I want to wish everybody a happy birthday. Is Wayne with us? Okay.
Yes,
Wayne, yay.
yay.
You and Zeke have an anniversary.
Well, we had it yesterday.
You're right. I'm a week off. No, I'm a day off. You had it yesterday. What did you do other than shopping for the restaurant?
Well, I did that. You're right. And we had dinner and, pretty much stayed at home. We don't go out these days
Right.
until things settle down a little, but it was a nice day. I did do shopping and got Zeke a couple of presents.
Nice.
Mostly garden stuff, but anyhow. I want to take this opportunity too to say hi to everyone from Catherine Graham. She is living over near Reno now. She moved a month or so ago, and she wanted me to say hi to you guys. So
What took her up to Reno? Did Justin move?
no, I really don't know.
Okay.
Maybe she just wanted to get away. I'm not sure.
No state income tax.
No,
Well, I think that did have something to do with it. Maybe. I'm not sure.
my guess is that she's on the witness protection plan.
That could be too. Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah.
Wayne, if you have a
But she says
contact
hi.
for us,
So
Wayne, if you have a contact for us, let us know.
okay. Yeah. I told her we Zoom, that she could Zoom in if she wanted to, but I'm not sure. Okay, I'll let you know, Bruce.
So Wayne, did you do takeout or did Alex cook for you?
No, we bought take in from. We had a. do you want to know what we ate for dinner?
No.
No, we just made something at home.
Okay.
We're going to actually celebrate it in several days when Alex is available. So he
Okay.
was working.
So dare I ask how many years?
53.
Wow. Wow. Congratulations.
Yeah. It's a
That's
long haul.
fabulous. That's fabulous.
Well, I'm happy to be alive.
Yay. So Al Lustig.
Yeah.
You have a Rotary anniversary tomorrow, but we're celebrating it today.
Okay.
So what would you like to say about your Rotary experience? Was there any one aha moment or, something like
Camel
that?
joke.
The camel
Yeah.
joke,
Yeah.
the infamous.
I think I had really had a lot of fun my first year when we did one of the skits we did for I think it was Captain Ron's debunking. I had a lot of fun playing in that, and that really made me feel part of the club, partaking and going to rehearsals and getting to know people at that level. Of course, the fellowship that we experience in this club is just heartwarming, and it's maintaining through Zoom for those of us that keep coming to the meetings, and it's a good way to keep the connection. Otherwise, I feel like I just float away to other spaces. And the idea that keeps coming to mind is small change, big difference, but on a larger scale, a small person with the affiliation of Rotary can help make a big difference. And that to
Absolutely.
me is very essential.
So thank you. We are thrilled you're with us. And Nancy,
Yes, ma'am.
you have an anniversary also this coming week.
Does it say how many years? Is it like 21 or 22?
Oh, let's see, where's my list?
And Al, just like you, my first induction sort of to Rotary, I came in Catherine Graham's year, was her debunking.
Uh-huh.
And we just had so much fun. Mark Reese was there and they wrote this elaborate script and it was fun. And I have to say, I really missed my friends. I miss you guys.
Yes.
So the camaraderie and what everybody does, locally and everywhere. It's impressive, very impressive.
Nancy, it says 21 years.
I'm legal.
Hey, you can finally drink with us. Woohoo!
There you go. Here I am.
We have to get back to when we can get together and do that again.
Oh my God, please. Yes.
Heaven forbid. The frivolity will. Yes. Okay. So now, here's what's going on. Tomorrow night is the SCARC meeting. The Valley of the Moon is hosting. Again, it's about a hand washing water project in Haiti. Petaluma Sunrise, they are doing a movie night again. That's on the 27th. So that's Saturday night. I have the information I can send out to everybody today. And what they're trying to do is the district is forming an environmental committee. And this is kind of one of those pieces to have a movie night. And I can't remember off the top of my head exactly what they're showing, but it's something to do with the environment since it's now our 7th area of focus. Of course, April 2nd is First Friday. District Training Assembly. So David, Mark Raymond, did you want to say something about the District Training Assembly coming up? David? Did he disappear?
I ran over.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I was going around to get coffee. We all got emails that came in last week, I think. And if you didn't get an email, I can get, and it came with a registration. So you register, there's going to be a gathering on Wednesday night that's mostly a social, and then district training the next day. It's on the 17th. It's going to be different this year. Rather than people talking at you, it's going to be interactive, and where you go to get information about Rotary and do those sorts of things. So hope to see us all there. I think it's it's a good prelude to the next year and useful information that we can use right now.
Super, thank you. And April 22nd is Earth Day. So that will be our club project. We'll be doing our road cleanup on High School Road, and you'll have more information about that as it gets closer. So we get organized for that. So weekly announcements. Michael Cook, how's it going?
Well, progress is being made. We moved the date, as you can see, to May 2nd, so we don't have a clash with the Noon Club's event that ends on May 1st. So they're doing a similar thing, and we'll take on raising money starting on the 2nd for 2 weeks. We've got a choice to make on the URL for the thing, so you'll see a save the date message within the next week that has a link so you can see the items that we have. I'm still excited that we've got a number of things really from, thanks to Jim Glom. He's got a peace pole offer, and it's a pricey item, and we have a happy example of that over at Frank Mayhew's place. And other people in the community have them. And we're interested in more items. So it could be an experience, or it could be something tangible, a decorative item or collectible. I'll show you a screenshot of the website next week.
Super. And are you still, is the committee meeting after this meeting again this morning?
You betcha.
Okay, so stick around and find out more about what's going on, folks. So, Michael Fells, did you want to talk about next week's program?
Well, I think next week is going to be very interesting. Neil Goodman has been a close friend of mine for many, many years, and he was a professor at the at St. Peter's University, a sociologist, but more importantly, more relevant to our club, he is a leading world expert on the whole question of diversity and cultural inclusion, and he's going to talk with us about unconscious bias. And I think he has a very unique way of presenting, and I think you're all going to enjoy it very much.
Thank you.
Yep.
Sad news. Rotary Youth Exchange has been canceled due to COVID for next year. I know, David, you've been talking with our student, Julian. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what have you been discussing with him? I know we talked about it a little bit yesterday.
Well, naturally, he's pretty disappointed. He's very disappointed because he was to be out this year. And so he had qualified, gone through all the process, got himself set, studying Portuguese, and wasn't able to go because of COVID last year. They've decided to cancel it next year, and that may mean that it will be aged out of the program, unfortunately. So that's pretty sad for him. Really, we're just talking about that right now. But I have thoughts that there's another program for students aged 18 to 20, I believe it is. That is a short-term sort of program, and maybe we could consider him for that. I'm talking with the district about whether they would open that up and support it. So if they do, maybe we will.
So why don't you give us a brief little rundown on who else is on your committee for Youth Exchange? Because I know we have a new member, because I'm looking at her right now. Who else is on the Youth Exchange Core Committee?
Well, in absence of Lou, it's Michael and Nancy.
Michael which?
Michael Fells, sorry. The three of us work on it as Nancy as the administrative person, and then Michael Fells was going to be working with the inbound, and I with the outbound.
Right. Thank you, and thank you, Nancy, for doing that job. Youth Exchange is really a great program. So Diana Curtis, did you want to say a little blurb about Rotary Direct? Diana?
I'm unmuting. There I go. Yeah. Rotary Direct. What I have here is about polio. I'm sorry, maybe I misunderstood what you wanted, Barbara.
Oh.
We can talk about Rotary Direct next week. Do you mind me saying a few words about polio right now?
Go ahead, go for it, because I know it's good news.
It is. We have no new cases of the wild polio virus in the last week. We've had 80 days since type 1 occurred in Afghanistan, 53 days since it occurred in Pakistan, and only 2 cases have occurred of the wild polio virus this year. We have 27 cases in 2020, so it is definitely on the way out, and I find that very exciting. I looked it up because for me, I wasn't quite sure. I get confused, which is the wild polio virus and which is the, let's say, the unwild polio virus, the one that can be caught from the Sabin vaccine. And 1 in every 2.9 million cases, a person actually comes down with the polio virus with the Sabin vaccine, which is a live virus vaccine. That's not given in the United States at all since, what year was that? In the 1990s, I believe. But the Sabin vaccine is the one on the little sugar cube, which is really easy to give, and it isn't transmissible. So that's one reason they're still giving that one out. It's not a shot. But I just think Rotary has done a fantastic job, and I want to encourage everyone in the club to please donate to the Rotary Foundation for getting rid of polio and all the other good works that we're doing. But thank you.
Thank you. And we'll hear more from you next week then.
Okay.
So the week in review, first of all, look at that motley crew. So thank you, everybody. We did it again. Now, I ended up being a bag lady because I tied bags. You see the little red mesh bags? Well, it comes in a giant roll that has to be cut, and then you tie a knot at one end, they fill the bag, and they tie a knot at the other end. So I was a bag lady and tied bags. But we did it again. Potatoes and broccoli. And Michael McLaughlin, you will be lining up another week for us to do it, another time for us to do it next month, right?
Yep.
Super.
We'll probably do it the third week.
Okay, sounds good. As soon as we have a date, then we'll let everybody know. It really is fun.
No, broccoli is not fun.
Broccoli is not fun. I missed that. Oh, shucks. I did the potatoes. Anyway, yeah, it is fun and you're safe. And now that we're getting immunized, and especially since the weather's getting better, it's a great way to get out and you actually get to see people. Yay! And then we had on Saturday, Bill Sauber. Why don't you tell us about this? Bill?
Had to unmute. Okay.
Yeah.
We had a great cleanup at the Laguna, and we had a total of 10 spots. All 10 spots were filled, and we fanned out, and some folks went along the sidewalk on Morris Street, and others took the trails in through the Laguna. A guy from Santa Rosa East brought his 2 kids with him, and they went in and they found an old abandoned homeless encampment that had burned, and it was a mess. There were pallets all over the place. The folks had brought in like interlocking panels of plastic grid, I suppose to keep them off the ground. And maybe they had them on pallets, I don't know, but that stuff burned and melted onto the pallets. There were old sleeping bags, all kinds of stuff. And that 3-person crew, a guy and his daughter and his son, dismantled and cleaned up that whole thing. It was abandoned. There wasn't anybody there, and there was no valuables, but just big bags of stuff. We ended up hauling away 2 pickup loads of trash, and I took it to our debris box, great big 20-yard dumpster at Boleto, and threw it all in there. We ended up, we had 3 different chairs. We had a car seat that had come out of like the back of a van or something. A big bag of marijuana, all kinds of stuff. I found one little place that I worked with 2 gals, one that lives here, but has a friend who was in Santa Rosa East. And we sat and worked underneath in some brush, and I had a long, heavy coveralls on, and so I could get in underneath the stuff in amongst the blackberries and drag the stuff out, and then they would bag it as I would pass it out to them. So we had like a bucket brigade of trash. We had a great time, and we did a whole lot of good cleaning up. And all of the folks that are living along the Morris Street by the Laguna there were very appreciative. Many of them helped and you know, a little bit here and there, and brought out trash and stuff. So it was a great experience.
Great, thank you. And thank you, Dan, for being there. It really was. Now, one quick thing. Who is this mystery person? Anybody have an idea? No? Oh my goodness. He likes to travel. He likes to meet people. He likes to cook. David, tell us about him.
That's Guillen Bernal.
Yes.
Guillen, he sent me that picture day before yesterday. That's him. He's a medical student, and he's in his anesthesiology rotation now.
Oh.
And we were talking a lot because that day, Monday, I guess it was, marked the 2-year anniversary that his father passed away. And the city of Zaragoza put on a big online event around his father, who was famous as a university professor and also as a local politician.
Okay, thank you. We were looking forward. He may be coming and joining one of our meetings, so looking forward to hearing that. Now, who's magic number 15 today for the lotto ticket?
Oh, magic number 15 is Henry.
Ah, Henry, I will scrape your scratcher. Whoops, that's the wrong one. That was a used one. Here's your new one, and let you know if you've won anything. So without further ado, we aren't going to do any
Introduce Dr. Jason McCannell, who was the special assistant to the director at the California State Parks and principal consultant to the American Indian Cultural District in San Francisco. Jason grew up in Davis and Walnut Creek and received his PhD in geography from UC Davis. Before he joined the staff of Governor Jerry Brown in 2011, he held a number of positions, including lecturer, educational consultant, and evaluator. From 2016 to 2018, he served in a dual appointment as the governor's special assistant for research and assistant director of the California Research Bureau, a division of the State Library. It was there that he conceived and wrote the original proposal for the Digital Atlas of California Native Americans, which was funded by the DRAM, the DRAM antitrust settlement at the California Native American Heritage Commission in 2018. The governor appointed Jason to the state parks to lead the project under an interagency agreement. So please welcome our speaker today, Dr. Jason McCannell.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Great introduction and a good transition to me telling you a little bit more of the background of this project that I'm talking about today. So when I was working for Governor Brown, who I'm sure you're all familiar with in various ways, you know, one of the things that he often tasked me with, and first I want to make sure, can everyone hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, you know, one of the things that he would often task me with was, you know, sort of looking at findings in the research in pretty much any field that he found novel or surprising, and asking me if, you know, one, if I thought it was true, if, you know, when somebody actually read all the footnotes, you know, is this actually supported, or is this just sort of another ideological, you know, piece of work? And, you know, two, should the state do something with this new knowledge? Is this something that we should be acting on? And one of the academic works that he gave me to consider in this way was An American Genocide by Benjamin Madley. And I believe that Ben has either been a guest at the club before or maybe is going to in the future. Is that
He
right?
has. He's spoken to us. Yes. Mhm.
Ben has spoken to you about his book, and you know, really what happened with that was, you know, I got the book, I started reading it, and as always, you know, got in touch with the author, you know, to talk to him about it, and sort of working together, we got to the point where Jerry was actually the first governor, I believe in American history, the first governor of a US state to acknowledge that genocide happened in his state. And if you get any edition of An American Genocide after the first, you can find his blurb on the back cover, which is, you know, going to be the first time you're going to see on the record in print an American governor saying the word genocide. So that was a really big deal. And it was, you know, in the course of me talking to Ben that, you know, initially he said a lot of places like that have had these events in their past in Eastern Europe and Africa, other places that we more sort of conventionally associate with genocide. There are online remembrances of the incidents, and those have been, you know, part of the truth and reconciliation process as nations try to grapple with these kinds of events in their past. And, you know, sort of considering the situation of Native Americans in California, and I've been sort of, you know, pulled in on a lot of different Native issues already, and new people, you know, from working on those in the governor's office. You know, I thought, well, it would be kind of a disservice, you know, for us to put together an archive that only talks about, you know, the attempted total destruction of California's Native peoples. You know, when in actuality, you know, the survivance of the peoples of California, you know, the fact that they lost 90% of their population and have today returned to the numbers that are thought to have existed on the eve of contact with the Spanish is a really it's a much more remarkable story than just the fact that genocide did occur, though that's also something that we really do need to grapple with and something we need a record of. So I created this proposal for a digital atlas that not only would include the remembrance, the archive, the evidence of the genocide, but also as much other material on this very ancient civilization that existed in California that people aren't aware of, that's been erased in many ways, in place names, in architecture, in the sort of symbolism of our state and how we think of our origins, in either the missions or the gold rush, rather than stretching back 12,000 years or more. That was the idea, is to give the complete rounded picture as far as possible, rather than just focusing on what I say is the worst 30 or 40 years in a 12,000 year history. So that's how the project came about. And it was sort of rattled around the administration for a couple of years, not getting any funding. And fortuitously, in the last year of Jerry's administration, when I was looking for my next job, this $150,000 grant came in from the DRAM antitrust settlement, which was it was a settlement in the computer memory industry. So the CPRE panel of judges that was trying to dispose of these excess funds decided that it should fund digital projects in the service of social justice. And that's how they ended up deciding to fund the Digital Atlas of California Native Americans. So I think what I'm going to do now is share my screen with you so I can walk you through some of the features of this archive. I guess I should maybe before that talk a little bit about the process of, you know, how we actually put this together. I joined State Parks at the end of 2018. You know, we had this money, some of it was slated for my salary and some of it was slated for different pieces of it, hiring subcontractors to do research, travel around the state to do consultations, that kind of thing. And, you know, I really do want to emphasize that consultation shaped this project. There are 160, I don't know if everyone is aware of this, but there are 160 tribes in California, both federally recognized tribes and non-recognized tribes that are in contact with the State Native American Heritage Commission and have established themselves according to the Commission's criteria as California Native American tribes. And that means that they operate a government. In the case of the federally recognized tribes, they have some degree of sovereignty over the lands that they have. Whereas, largely the non-recognized tribes are landless and don't have any sovereignty that's recognized by the federal government, but they are recognized in state law for processes like consultation, repatriation, consultation when there are things like big public works projects, if you're going to build a freeway across land where people are buried or where artifacts might be found. There's a list of folks that need to be consulted with. Many different ways the state does support these tribes, even though for various historical reasons they have either lost their recognition with the federal government or never actually had it in the first place. The atlas as it stands reflects consultation with around 40 tribes. That's 40 out of 160. So there's a lot of voices that I haven't heard. People who've been silent on the project, and you can't count silence as consent when you're talking about a relationship as fraught as the relationship between state government and these tribal governments. So I'm still trying to engage as much as possible. COVID slowed it down. Do as much outreach as possible to get people's input on what should and should not be in this atlas. And it was reshaped in many, many ways in the consultation that I did do. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as I actually demonstrate. So I am empowered to share my screen, right? Yeah. Here we go. So when you go to the URL, and I don't know if you have the URL in your in the program or whatever, it's pretty simple. And I can send it to you in chat, in a minute when I'm not trying to multitask and confuse myself. Anyway, when you go to this sort of splash page before you actually launch the atlas itself as an app, you'll see, various things. Most importantly, the disclaimer. The Digital Atlas of California Native Americans is for educational and display purposes only. The geographical information displayed in the atlas is not for use in determining locations of cultures, boundaries, or people for recognition, consultation, or any other legal or policy purpose. And this was a very important addition to the atlas that was raised a lot in consultation, that they did not want, while everyone was okay with showing these sort of cultural boundary maps that I'm using. They didn't want to be replaced. They didn't want these maps to supplant what had already been established as the consultation relationships with state and other entities. The resources displayed in the atlas remain the property of their owners as cited. That was another big concern, that things, once things are used in displays or things like that, that they then get appropriated and show up in a lot of places. And all resources were found in the public domain or displayed with the owner's permission. Okay, now that we're through that, I'm going to actually launch the app. So that, pretty much any of the pictures that you see on that splash page will launch the app. There's also blue links that do it. Once again, the disclaimer appears, makes you click through with an agreement before you actually get to look at the map. And the base map that you can see here shows the 60 cultural areas of California traditionally. And this is something that's been problematic, to say the least, for tribes and people, and just for the general understanding of how space was occupied and used by these people. So what you don't see on this base map is, for instance, hard boundaries. Oops, that was a little bit too fast to zoom. Trying to get to your neck of the woods. You don't see hard boundaries on this map. There's a lot of other maps. The map that it's based on, published by the Native American Heritage Commission, has hard boundaries. What I actually did, oops, didn't get, trying to get into the buffer zone and not making it. Here we go. What I actually did to make this map a little bit more sensitive to the way space actually was used before the colonization of California, was I created these 10-kilometer buffers around each of the cultural territories. So what you find when you click on this map, the base map, is these links come up, and here I found the boundary between the Wapo and Pomo people. And when you click on these, I'll go to Pomo because it's a much more populated set. You'll find at this point, for the most part, you're going to find just a list of the different tribes with that cultural affiliation who were traditionally associated with that territory. And in some places, you know, what we've had are, you know, tribes giving a little bit more information about themselves to the atlas directly with their direct consent. The only thing that I'll publish without actually interacting with the tribe is their name and their postal mailing address. Until somebody says, yeah, we want our website up there, we want our email on there, I'm not going to put anything on there. I'm not going to put any imagery or anything like that to represent people until they have said, we want this imagery representing us. And a really neat addition to the atlas that came up during consultation are these tribal atlas pages. And so far, there's only 6 of them, 154 to go. But this is, you know, really solve the problem of representation and appropriation that you have if you want to add cultural material to a resource like this. I was originally trying to act like your typical museum curator or whatever, putting together resources that I found in the public domain that I thought were representative of these cultures. Everybody that I talked to told me, no, don't do that. Let us put together our own pages. And this one of the Agua Caliente Band of Cahuilla Indians, this is down south in the Palm Springs area, but I just wanted to pull it up because it represents sort of the biggest archive among these tribal atlas pages. It just has all of these different materials, links to videos, to articles, you know, just a lot of amazing stuff for anybody who wants to learn anything about the Cahuilla culture and this particular tribe. So that's really all we have in terms of sort of cultural material, but I think it's a good thing that rather than trying to, you know, amass and conglomerate imagery from a lot of different sources and then try to find consent from the tribes after the fact, to let them have control of the process. So that's just beginning. And once again, as I do continuing outreach, I want to get many more tribes involved in creating their own atlas pages. Now, with about 10 minutes left, I'm going to run through, when you click on that upper left thing that looks like a stack of paper, you get the layers of the map. And I'm just going to sort of run through. There's 12 layers to this map, some of them much more complex than others. And I'm going to start running through these. The historical lakes and wetlands, this comes from a map from 1866. It isn't a very good map, as you can see from where they put Clear Lake. But I think what's really interesting about this map is just seeing the extent of wetlands that existed before, you know, America came in and, you know, created all of the canals and all of the dams and all the riprap that sort of created our hydrology today. And I think this is really important to understand, you know, when we think about where people were and how they used the land before colonization. I should have begun this with a land acknowledgement. I'm coming in today from downtown Sacramento, the traditional borderlands of the Patwin, the Miwok, and the Nishinan people. But land acknowledgement for Sacramento is kind of, it's a trick question because as you can see, you know, Sacramento was really not land before before colonization. It was, you know, I look out in my backyard and, you know, I think, well, this was actually, you know, a place where people might have gone to fish or hunt for ducks. And you can understand why this was actually a shared area, in part because the wetlands before colonization were just simply so bountiful. And for folks who want to learn more about how Native people in California used resources, this is sort of the starting point that we have. I created this natural resources map based on a publication by UC Press called, you know, it's called California Indians and Their Environment. Excuse me. If you click on any of these sort of colored areas, I'll zoom out and show the whole state is kind of divided. If you click on any of these colored areas, you get a pop-up that gives you a link to a list of, wow, it's a big list, natural resources used in the region. So oh, I didn't click on your region. You can click on your region when you look at it yourself. But it's sort of plants, animals, minerals, their common and scientific names, and what they were used for by Native people in the area. So that's kind of a fun resource you can use with your kids, and it's not controversial. Here we have the estimated population of different regions of the state in 1769. This number has been around for a while. It was published by an anthropologist named Sherburne Cook, very famous, back in the 1960s. And you can see, click on this region, you know, from sort of Marin County to the Oregon border along the coast. Says there were about 70,440 people living there in 1769. One of my favorite, I always look at these two layers together, and usually with a cultural base map on. This is one of my favorite parts of the atlas are the trails and the trade relations. And I think that, you know, one of the most common misconceptions about Native people in California was that they were isolated and primitive and unsophisticated. That was really sort of the propaganda that was used from the very beginning at the time of the genocide, and it's kind of persisted in the way we teach our history to this very day. And I think that when you look at the kinds of trade routes and relationships and transportation routes that people in California maintained before the Spanish came, you start to realize that these were very sophisticated people, that they were dealing with as much diversity, by the way, as the state does today, hundreds of languages then, hundreds of languages now. And, you know, they lived apparently in relative peace. There was obviously fighting, but, you know, not on the scale that we've seen after colonization. And, you know, just when you click on these blue arrows that you see going between the different cultural areas, you can, you find out what was traded by who along that line. And this one is the one I always bring up because the Southern Valley Yokuts traded shell money with the Mojave for fire drills, digging sticks, and baskets. And what motivated people to make this 400-mile journey that a lot of people don't even want to do in a car with air conditioning, on foot, with no transportation, animals of any kind, because their cultural values were such that they needed these materials, and they had a relationship with these people who were very, very far away from them, you know, even in modern transportation terms. So that gives you an idea of just what a big, complex and balanced system existed among these people who were here before the current civilization in California.
Jason, would you add the overlay of the historical lakes and wetlands, please? Because I think it's so fascinating to see Lake Tulare.
Oh, yes. Yeah, there we are, Tulare Lake. Amazing. The archaeological sites around here are also amazing. This Tulare Lake was an enormous resource for people for a very long time. Really deep history there. And you can see also that this was a hub of trade and international relations. Some of these orange trails would have been foot trails, and others would have been boat routes, canoe routes. You can see going out to the Channel Islands, going out to Catalina Island down south. And I think it's just amazing that all of this, and by the way, also, if you look at the original source, which is linked somewhere in my credits, there's a correspondence between some of the trails that are on this map and our transportation routes today, like Highway 99. Many of our highways and other transportation routes were originally laid out by these people. This is not a very exciting layer. It's the missions. I just grabbed it from Esri, but something that I really would like to do over time. There's a lot of efforts underway to collect Native American experiences at the missions and sort of add them to displays and things like that. And I would really like to ultimately use this layer to create a digital archive of that. And this is actually something that will probably be of a lot of interest to folks, well beyond native issues. This is the first time that you have a GIS layer of the Spanish and Mexican land grants in California covering the entire state. I color coded them so that red means, red is the earliest, yellow is the middle, blue is the latest, but you can also click on them to get this basic information, the year the grant was made, the colonial governor who made the grant, and then who received it. Once again, I think that there's a lot that could be added to this, but I can also see this particular map layer being used in a lot of different places for teaching California history and researching it. Treaty lands, quickly, there were 18 unratified treaties many people know about. The green on this map are areas that were promised to tribes in treaties where the reservations never actually materialized. In some cases, you'll see later 19th century, this is from a 19th century map, you'll see later 19th century reservations that actually did materialize, like the Tule River Reservation. But of course, the entire city of Fresno today is not an Indian reservation. So that's, and when you click on these, you can see not only links to the original document, the original handwritten treaty, but also a transcript, at least for the 1851 to 1852 treaties. American genocide, the reason we originally decided to set out on this project, you get timelines of genocide incidents in your region when you click on the region. I'm pleased to report that there were not that many in Sonoma County, but I have you with Mendocino County in the regionalization. Mendocino County really was, essentially like a Holocaust site in the 19th century. So warning, when you click on those links on the side, when you see the original sources of some of this stuff, there's going to be language, there's going to be brutality. You can see a content warning on the top. And that's the plan, is that as the Governor's Truth and Healing Council goes forward with their work, that this archive is going to be relied on a lot and potentially added to as more material is amassed on these incidents. Finally, one last thing, I'm not gonna, the last layer of reservations and allotments today is just from the Bureau of Indian Affairs. It just shows where, and yeah, look at the statewide level, when you turn on Indian country today, you can't see it barely. There's one in Jackson. Closest one to you is Grayton, I believe. I think Grayton might be too small to see at this scale. Anyway, my point on putting these two layers together, these tiny green patches that you see here and there are reservations and allotments that are given to federally recognized tribes today. The lesser known blue patches that you're looking at, these are bounty lands. These are lands that were granted to militiamen in the state's genocidal campaigns for their service. And this is the first time they've been mapped. It all had to be done by hand because I got the data from the Bureau of Land Management during the last federal administration, and I knew that if I asked them for the data, they would probably shut down the site. When you click on one of these, you can see the name of the person who received the land. Since this is pretty close to you, here, this is probably the closest one to you here in Occidental. Whoops, I have the wrong layer. John Gordon, a private, and Graham's company in the California Indian War received this 160 acres in 1870, signed it over probably for $100 to Benjamin Franklin Alden and Charles Allen Kemper in the San Francisco Land Office. And when you click on these links, you can see the original document. Signed by President Ulysses S. Grant, so obviously not by his hand, but by his agent, that awarded this, what was usually just used as a cash bonus. These soldiers didn't become gentlemen farmers. They signed their land over to speculators for cash for the most part. And I think that's a piece of our history and a piece of local history, not so many in your neck of the woods, but if you go down into the Central Valley and especially into the areas that were promised to tribes initially, you'll find, there's whole communities that were, in fact, originally settled using this bounty instrument. And I've gone over my time, so I need to open it up to Q&A now. Sorry, I could go for an hour on this one.
So thank you. This map is one of those rabbit holes that one can go down. It's really fascinating. Thank you. Questions? Who has questions?
I have a quick question. How are Native Americans, some of the tribes, they must have been informed about obviously your connection to them and what you've put together. Have they had an opportunity, has anybody had an opportunity to kind of review the site, and what do they think about use of something like this for Anglos like us?
I mean, it's been an ongoing part of the conversation. I work at state parks, but the actual owner of this is the California Native American Heritage Commission, which is every member of the commission is a tribal citizen. The executive secretary of the commission is a tribal citizen. The deputy director of the staff is also Native American herself, but not from the California tribe. And these are the people that I've done the project with. And it's been in dialogue with them from the very beginning. But the thing about Native American is that it's, it's not one thing. You can't say, oh, I talked to an Indian, so this is okay. And that's why consultation is such an ongoing process, and how we're constantly making adjustments, how we still take calls from tribes who say, hey, we're wondering about, where the boundary is there, and we think maybe it should be moved, and let's go over it. So it's just under constant review. And because it is housed within the commission, I would say that it is in fact a Native-owned project. I'm just the guy who puts it together.
Well done, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. This is fascinating.
I wonder
one more real quick.
I see 1 minute left on my clock.
I wonder what other states have done in this same regard.
None, as far as I know. And if you know any other states out there, you can tell them that, I'm potentially available to help put it together. Yeah, I think that quite a bit of this work has been done in other countries. Australia has some efforts underway, particularly on the genocide incident front, where, there's, I'm trying to remember which university it is. They're leading an effort to map, places where Aboriginal people in Australia were massacred in the 19th century. So yeah, I'd say that you'll find more of this overseas. There's a project in Canada called nativeland.ca that I kind of adopted my idea of adding buffers for. They're trying to cover the entire world. Yeah, as far as this country goes, I think California as always is the first out ahead of everyone else. And I say that with, in a way, as much shame as pride when I look back on our past and, what it now means to me.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming this morning, all the way from Sacramento to visit us.
I know, it was such a long trip from my bedroom to my office there, so.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me. Take care.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.